Hello there, my name is Kevin Durjun, and I'm a rather proud member of the AAC. And today I'm even prouder than usual, because today is a very, very good day. If you're watching this, I'm guessing that you're an acupuncturist like me. And if, like me, you've gone through a degree level of training, you may well have felt frustrated and irritated over the years when one by one your patients came to you and said, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to discontinue acupuncture because I wish to donate blood. Now, you might have seen on the socials recently some rather exciting news and relating to this very issue. And I must say that we are here today with a bit of a hero, Mr. Chris Davies, who is the mastermind behind this latest bit of brilliant news. So tell us, Chris Davies, tell us the good news, tell us what has just happened.
So at last, we have a definite agreement with a date of when JPAC, who look after basically bloods and also organ donations, um, they've given us a date of this August for updating the website so that licensed acupuncturists can now be exempt from the 4-month waiting for their patients, the 4-month wait they used to have to do. So, it's been a long time coming, but that's the news.
It's been years. It has been years, Chris. I remember I used to work as a manager at the British Acupuncture Council for several years, and this was one of the bugbears. And you have been able to sort it out. So tell us, Chris, what were some of the hurdles that you had to overcome?
Well, lots really. I mean, as you mentioned, the BACC tried to resolve this a long time ago and did a lot of work on it, early on in the years. And then and other associations as well, ATCM, etc. But unfortunately got sort of left by the wayside. And it was really taken up, the mantle was taken up again by Tony Dickinson from Barmer in sort of 2019, who wrote a series of letters and we used to meet as part of the stakeholder group fairly regularly, but he used to turn up with 4 letters that he'd written probably about 3 months to them to wear them down. And basically, in the end, managed to get the first agreement ever that's ever been gained from anybody for the blood transfusion service, who agreed that it should be abolished and that actually it's blocking their access to bloods. And so that was the first part of it, because that was the first place to get that agreement, which then supported further agreements going forward. Without that, we wouldn't have anything. So a little bit of war of attrition, as this has become entirely.
Now, the way that you've just described it, it sounds as if it was a fairly straightforward process, but I don't think it was all that straightforward, was it?
No, that specific, that was just one stage of it, and there's 9 stages in total. So, one stage is great. You've won the sort of battle, but you haven't won the war, etc. So you've got a lot more to do. And it took Tony about a year, 18 months to get that, agreement. So although it was gained in 2019, it was set off, before that. So we've been working on about 8 years now. So in the end, he couldn't get any further with it. And I sort of then escalated it to the next one up the queue, as it were, which was really JPAC and Sabto, who both look after, one looks after the safety side of the blood transfusion and organs, and the other one looks at the technical details of it. So, it was again trying to escalate to that and get that. And we spent until 2022, writing letters and not getting anywhere, just as other people have failed to do. But in the end, I
Fantastic.
suppose I lost it a little bit, and I came to the end of my tether. And we have a great legal team at AAC. We've got, in fact, 5 legal teams, which no one else has, all on retainers, etc. So we've got licensing, civil rights lawyers, all these things, litigation lawyers. And it was litigation, Rob from LLM Solicitors in Manchester, who wrote this quite horrific letter to them saying that we were starting legal action against them. It was against civil rights and other bits and pieces, etc. And it just basically, it was very nice, report, but it basically said, look, we're going to start legal action because we're not getting anything done here or anything back from you. And you're not engaging with us, really. It is unfair, because obviously there were exemptions already in for people like physiotherapists, osteopaths, chiropractors who may have done, and they may not have done a short course, but a lot of them had done 2 or 3 days, and yet they were totally exempt. And yet people had invested a lot of money in their training, 3 years or several years worth of training, and suddenly being penalised, and yet they were probably the most qualified people out of the list if you look at the exemption list. So it seemed really that it was an unbalanced, against us, and that's what we sort of used to sort of say, well, this is, if we take this to court, we're fairly likely to win this because there's definitely, an imbalance here going on, and we could argue that it is potentially against acupuncturists. So they then had to take legal action. Legal advice they had to go and get, and the legal advice warned them that they should perhaps review this, and that exploring that allowed them to review it as well. So the legal advice they got was sort of twofold, but also allowed them to expand and realize that they could actually make alterations. And so this sort of went on from there.
So, in addition to going to law, how else did you manage to get them to understand that licensed acupuncture practitioners are safe?
Well, one of the aspects was Tony Dickinson had to do a demonstration of acupuncture and then go through all the equipment and show, what we were using. Years ago, people used to reuse needles, and this is, potentially how the actual original problem happened. And obviously that's all changed. And so Tony went through all the procedures, explained everything, how you do it, and they accepted that as a perfect. They said there's no issues with your hygiene position. Obviously, acupuncturists, we've had one case ever in 10 years of hygiene issues. So there just isn't the evidence that acupuncture have hygiene problems. They're very well trained as usual across the board, no matter who you train with, there's no issues at all. So, he had to do that. We then had to present a list of acceptances. So obviously we're accepted by people like environmental health, various London Borough Councils we have exemption from. We're accepted generally in healthcare now, as part of the National Operational Standards, we're classed as professional healthcare workers or healthcare professionals. So, and in COVID, we were classed, AAC people certainly, and others were classed as key workers to support people, from having to go to the NHS and actually help with secondary healthcare. So we had a lot of evidence, there's probably about 2 pieces of A4 of just specific bullet pointed, items down there proving that we are, sort of legitimate, if you want, although, we obviously know that ourselves, but it was trying to put it across and so much evidence that it was just, in a way, it made it look a bit silly that we weren't on the list. And that's what their conclusion was in the end. They just perhaps understood our frustration with it. They went, there is a problem here, definitely, which was really good of them to admit and to sort of then make procedures towards removing it. But the key thing is those two agreements. And they've never been gained by anybody else ever, is the one from the Tony Dickinson got from Blood Transfusion Service, and the second one that we managed to get from JPAC and SAPTO. They've never been gained. And without those agreements, we wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that.
Brilliant. Well, also without you, Chris, we wouldn't be in this situation. Now, you mentioned BALMA and ATCM. Did you work with any other organizations in order to get this work done?
It was obviously BACC, ATCM, and a few others have written letters and done some work towards this, especially going back 2010, 2012, these sort of periods a long time ago, to really try and solve this, because it was a thorn for everybody, really. But no, mainly was Tony Dickinson and Balmer that got the ball rolling, definitely. And then, I got so frustrated with it, like that, managed to take up the mantle from him and pursue forwards, and just swore to myself that I wouldn't give up. I always believe that when there's no battles in life, it's just simply a war of attrition and who will quit first. And, it's a case of, well, I'm not going to quit, and we'll just, we'll send them letters as we send about four or five emails a year to them. And that's what's kept it pushing forward. And some of them being quite demanding, saying, we've given you 6 years now. Where are you up to with this? She sent one last week. And I don't want to say that this is the letter last week that I sent wasn't particularly, again, it was very professional, not rude, but it was quite stern. And I'm not sure that this has caused it. I don't want to make that statement at all. But it is a case of constantly pushing until you get, your position across, really. And that's what we've managed to do at last. So that's great.
Well, Chris Davies, on behalf of us all, thank you so much. And I salute you. This is a huge win for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a huge win for everybody. We've done it for all acupuncturists. The easiest thing was to just get as an exemption on the list for, a couple of associations or something like that. But again, it was the disparity of the problem and the situation of the exemption list. It's just ridiculous that everybody's not on there. So as long as you're licensed as a fully licensed acupuncture with your local authority, or of course you've got licensing exemption if you're in London, in which case you're still licensed without need to be licensed, then you will be your clients will be able to give bloods, etc.
Brilliant news. Thank you.